Alright, so good evening to all of you once again. Uh, Today we will try to understand some other dynasties, but one of them will be again the complicated one, that is the Chalukyas. Because I had already told you that Chalukya is a very complicated dynasty because it has so many branches. So we will discuss one of the branches of the Chalukya. After that, we will discuss the history of Kashmir, what was happening in the heaven of the earth. The places those are heaven, they are really the more destructible one. Whether you talk about this, the ongoing war in Israel, Palestine, and Lebanon. Lebanon is supposed to be one of the most beautiful places. So Chalukya and the history of Kashmir is starting from the 6th century or 7th century till 12th century. So many dynasties came, and one of them was Karkota. Karkota. After Karkota, we will be discussing Utpala. Some of you will be listening these names for the very first time.
कारकोट उत्पल और क्या
Karkota, Utpala.
आप इंग्लिश में ऐसे बोल रहे हैं ना, हम लोग हिंदी में कारकोट उत्पल
Okay. Karkota, Utpala, and the third one is which
लोहार
one? Eh?
लोहार वंश
Lohar, but it is also known as Yakshara. Ykshaskra. Okay. Yakshara. Let me start with the Chalukya. This time we will be discussing the Chalukyas of where? Kalyani. Any idea where the Kalyani is? Kalyani, no, it is not in Maharashtra. It is in Karnataka. And how the Chalukyas of Kalyani comes into existence? If you remember, the main seat of the Chalukya dynasty was shown by the Chalukyas of Badami, whose Pulkesin II, the most well-known ruler. That dynasty, what happened that the main Chalukyas, these Badami Chalukyas, they used to have Rashtrakutas as their feudatories. And what happens, the last ruler of the Badami Chalukya, any idea who was the last ruler of this Badami Chalukya? His name was Kirtivarman. Kirtivarman was defeated by the Rashtrakuta king Danti Durga, and he established the Rashtrakuta dynasty. The last ruler of Rashtrakuta dynasty, his name was Karka II. And this Karka II was defeated by whom? Again the Chalukyas. I mean, you just what kind of interesting succession happens here. Initially the Chalukyas were there. After that the Rashtrakutas, who used to be the feudatories of the Chalukyas, and again the Rashtrakutas were defeated by the Chalukyas. But this time the Chalukyas who defeat the last ruler of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, known as Karka II, he was no one else but Tailap II. So Tailap II defeated the Karka II, the ruler of Rashtrakuta dynasty. And this Tailap II was the founder of the Chalukyas dynasty of Kalyani. So this is the separate branch of the Chalukyas. So that's how the, so in one sense you can say that these Kalyani's Chalukyas were the successor of the Badami Chalukyas, but in between Rashtrakutas come. Rashtrakutas rule somewhere around 200 years, for 2 centuries. And before Rashtrakutas, the Chalukyas, Pulkesin Dhoti's second lineage also ruled for 200 years. And these Chalukyas, the Kalyanis, the Tailaf second who founded the Kalyani, they also ruled somewhere around 200 years. So all these 3 dynasties, they ruled more or less for 150 or 200 years. So the Tailpa second was the founder of this dynasty Chalukya. What was the capital of the Tailpa second when he founded this dynasty? Generally people say if they are the Kalyani Chalukya, so the capital should be Kalyani. Yes, they are right, but there is a twist. When Tailpa II founded the dynasty, at that time the capital used to be the Mandkheta. Mandkheta. And we know this Mandkheta belongs to whom? It belongs to the Rashtrakutas. It was very well connected. Whenever we take the name Mandkheta, first ruler who come into our mind, they are the Rashtrakutas. Am I right or not? So, to come out of this connecting point, which was automatically connecting us with the Rashtrakutas, the next ruler of the Kalyani Chalukya, whose name was Someshwar first. And this Someshwar first, what he did, he thought Mandkheta is related and it always reminds the Rashtrakutas. And we don't have any recognition. What Modi ji did, he built this new parliament house, Central Vista, and he will be remembered in the future for this thing. So maybe it would have been the intention into the mind of Mr. Modi ji that if I am building this Central Vista, I would be remembered by the future generations. So this Someshwara, he also applied the same analogy, or you can say Modi ji applied the same analogy. He changed the capital from Mandkheta to Kalyani. Because he wanted to get a new recognition. Why should he imitate, or why should he have the capital which originally belongs to the Rashtrakutas? So he changes his capital from from this Mandkheta to Kalyani. After the Someshwara, the ruler, any idea who was the ruler after Someshwara? After Someshwara, a ruler whose name is Vikrama Ditya sixth. Vikramaditya sixth. And this Vikramaditya sixth is known for 2 to 3 things. One of them is that he had 2 very wonderful scholars in his court. And he is also known as one of the greatest rulers of all these Kalyani Chalukyas. The 2 scholars, any idea? One was Vigyaneshwar, who wrote Mitakshara. And the second one, Bilhad. Bilhad. Bilhad wrote Vikramank Dev Charita. And in this Vikramank Dev Charita, this Vikramaditya sixth was the hero. By the way, this Vikramank Dev Charita was a sort of eulogy. Eulogy means anything which is written in the praise of a king. So you cannot accept everything as a gospel truth written inside the Vikramank Dev Charita. Because the court poet can never go against the king's wish. The way nowadays journalists are not going against the will and wish of Mr. Modi ji. No matter whatever he is doing, that is the best thing done by anybody in the world. But what Kavira told, Nindak nere rakhiye angan koti sawar, bin pani sabun bina nirmal kare swabhav. That time has gone. Nowadays the constructive criticisms or just are being told that we are welcoming, but on practical ground they are not being accepted at all. So this Bilahada wrote Vikramank Dev Charita, which was a eulogy based on the character of this Vikramaditya VI. This Vigyaneswar is also equally famous because he wrote Mitakshara. Mitakshara, I think you have heard about this thing. Mitakshara. Look, whenever we discuss Mitakshara, one more thing comes into our mind. That is what? Daya Bhag. Daya Bhag. This was also a book or an scripture written by G. Mutwahana. G. Mutwahana. I am not going to write his name. You just listen it carefully. G. Mutwahana. Actually, look, G. Mutwahana wrote this Daya Bhag, and the Mitakshara was written by Vigyaneswar. These both books, they talk about the inheritance right of property. How a person can be entitled to this particular property. So they are discussing about the property rights. How the land will be transferred and how you will be eligible enough to get that property. And you know, in Indian society, the property dispute happens a lot. You go to any court or you go to the Lord Hanuman temple, majority of the people, they are praying to win their court cases related to property. So the rights of the property were given inside Mitakshara written by Vigyaneswar and inside Daya Bhag written by G. Mutwahana. And these scriptures were being used by the British government a lot. In Calcutta court, the matter which was going there related to property, Britishers were taking the help because it was very important for them to understand the custom and the culture of Indian society. The British law was completely different at that time. Because one day, a person was about to be hanged by the Britishers. And the crowd reached there and they started protesting against the Britishers. So Britishers thought that what has happened? He has committed the crime. So he is supposed to be hanged until death. But people were protesting because the person who had been given capital punishment, he was a Brahmana. And in Indian community, Brahmanas were not allowed to get the capital punishment. Britishers were not aware about these kinds of things because in Britain, these sorts of things never existed. One more interesting example is in Indian society, if any child, let's assume somebody has killed to someone, and in the court, if a child goes, the judge will accept child as a witness, because we believe that the child is what? He is innocent, and because he is innocent, that's why he will not think something bad, and he will not try to tell anything wrong. So in Indian society that time, a boy who was less than 18 years, a minor, was very well accepted as a witness. But at the same time in Britain, the concept was completely different, because they were believing a boy who is less than 18 years, who is a minor, his faculty of reason is not developed properly. Therefore, we cannot accept a boy as a witness. I just want to say that what kind of differences existed in the Indian society. If Britishers were not aware, it would be very difficult for them to dispense the justice. I am coming into my topic again. The Mitakshara and this Dayabhaga, they were the best books to understand the property rights. That's why Britishers used it to dispense the justice in the society. But when the Hindu Succession Act, I think 1956 or something, came, then they became obsolete. But still the seeds in the Hindu Succession Act belongs to these two important written articles. The last ruler of this Chalukya dynasty, his name was Someswara again. Someswara, but he is not the first, he is the third Someswara. And he is very well known in the history because he wrote a book. He wrote a book. Any idea the name of that book? That book is actually, the name is quite complicated. I myself forgot because of the complexity of the name, but I will basically this book, the second name I'm telling you, that is called Mansol Ullas. Mansol Ullas. But it has one more name that is really quite complicated. So this Mansol Ullas, this was written by Someswara III. And this Mansol Ullas, believe me, it was an encyclopedia. Because everything was given inside this book. You can understand what kind of intellect Someswara III had. The dance was given inside this book. The painting was given inside book. Astronomy was given. Mathematics, governance, polity, medicine, architecture, you name it. Everything is given in this book. And because of this nature, this Mansol Ullas written by Someswara III is known as the encyclopedia, and this Someswara III is known as omniscience ruler. Omniscience means a person who knows everything. Everything. So Someswara, no doubt he was a very intellectual person, but this is the time of 9th or 10th century. At that time, we also require the physical strength along with the mental strength. Someswara III was lacking in physical strength, and that's why after the Someswara, this Chalukya dynasty starts deteriorating, and within few years the whole dynasty gets mixed into soil. So that's how the dynasty founded by Talpa II comes to an end after the omniscience ruler who wrote Mansulas Someswara III. So this was as far as the Chalukyas of Kalyani was concerned. Now let me discuss the history of Kashmir. Okay, there are three dynasties which I want to discuss in my today's lecture. I will start the history of Kashmir discussing this Karkota. Karkota. This existed somewhere around 7th century. The first ruler, or you can say little bit known ruler of this Karkota dynasty was Durlabh Vardhan. Durlabh Vardhan. Durlabh Vardhan is known for one thing, and that is Harshvardhana. Not Harshvardhana. When Song visited his empire during the time period of Durlabh Vardhan. Huan Song, a very famous scholar of China, or traveler as well. After Durlabh Vardhana, I would say the most important ruler of the Karkota dynasty, his name was Lalitaditya. Lalitaditya is famous for the Martand temple. Yes, Martand temple. Martand. Actually, Martand is a synonym, or you can say this is the Sanskrit word which represents to the sun. So this sun temple constructed by Lalitaditya is the first sun temple anywhere in India. Anywhere. But a Muslim ruler comes and he destroyed, as he had an intention to Islamize the whole Kashmir, and he attacked over this Martand temple, and nowadays Martand temple is in a very disturbing situation. After Lalitaditya, the second dynasty which comes, that is Utpala. And in this Utpala, there is I will discuss only one rulers, as these dynasties did not have much rulers. The Utpala dynasty had one ruler whose name was Avanti Varman. Avanti Varman is famous for many things, but the most important thing is that he worked something to control the flood which used to occur in Kashmir region. And whenever flood occurred, it devastated everything. So this flood became a very disturbing element for the people of Kashmir. And this Avanti Burman, what he did, that he managed the Wooler Lake in such a manner that the flood stopped devastating the things. So you can say he managed the Wooler Lake in such a sense that the flood was controlled. For this thing, Avanti Burman is remembered even now in the hearts of the people of the Kashmir. He did not rule for much duration, and his successors were also not very powerful. Therefore, what happens that the next dynasty which comes, and it is a little, more known. Why? Because this dynasty, Yakshara, was, by the way, it was ruled by a ruler whose name was Chema Gupta. Okay, Chema Gupta. But Chema Gupta was a drunkard, a sort of a rangila type of person. इन आंखों की मस्ती में मस्ताने हजारों हैं, listening these kinds of songs and all the time intoxicated. So if anyone is in drunken stage, how will he manage the empire? How can he take care his subjects? So he got married off with a very beautiful girl whose name was Didda or Digga or whatever you want to pronounce. So Didda, when she went into Kashmir, they were ruling very close to the Pir Panjal. When she went and she realized that my husband is something like this, so she took over the reign of the empire of Yakshara dynasty into her hand. However, he was the ruler on the stamp, but the power was into the hands of this Didda. And this Didda was so powerful and strong in decision making, you can understand that the coins which were released during these dynasties, in that coin, the picture of Didda along with the picture of Chema Gupta was given. You can understand what kind of influence this lady had. The information about this Didda we are getting from the Raj Tarangadi. Raj Tarangadi is divided in 8 tarangas. 8 tarangas basically are the 8 books. This Raj Tarangadi was written by Kalhad. So Kalhad, I think Kalhad has some sort of animosity with this Digga, because whatever he has wrote about Digga, your blood will start boiling after listening. So this Kalhad wrote Raj Tarangadi, and in Raj Tarangadis were divided in 8 books. In the 6th book of the Raj Tarangadi, the Didda has been mentioned a lot. And from there, we are getting the information related to Didda. Kalhad told about Didda that she was a characterless, she was merciless, she was emotionless, and she was everything which is positive in nature less sort of lady. This Didda is also known as the Catherine of Kashmir. Catherine of Kashmir. What is this Catherine of Kashmir? I mean, if I have written the Napoleon of India, so everybody would understand that Napoleon, he was a very great ruler and he won so many battles, he increased the empire. But what is this Catherine of Kashmir?
यूरोप की राजकुमारी थी.
She was a queen of Russia.
फ्रांस और इस
She was the queen in Russia, and she was the longest serving queen in Russia. One of the well famous face in the history of Russia. This lady, believe me, in order to remain the queen, she did everything. Everything, whatever is possible from the side of a woman. She did everything. She had countless lovers. She slept with so many people, but don't you think when she was sleeping, she was sexually unsatisfied? No, this was not the reason. The reason was that she wanted to remain the queen forever. And the people who were powerful, to whom she was thinking that he can help me to remain me as a queen, she was making that person her lover. And when she was realizing this person doesn't have any kind of importance for me, she was kicking on his back. One of the lovers of the didda, this Catherine, was 40 years junior to her. So you can understand up to what extent she went to remain the queen. And she was completely merciless, because the people who were not of her use, they got killed as well. So these characters which are enshrined inside the Catherine of Russia, the reflection is also visible inside Didda, because Didda had an extramarital affair. By the way, husband was already drunken. Husband was being called as a henpecked. Henpecked is a person who is completely controlled in his wife. So she had an extramarital affair with a person whose name was Tuna. Okay, Tuna. He was a close confidant. I mean, she was following with her blind folded eyes. Whatever he was saying to her, that was a gospel truth for her. So that's why Kalahar, who wrote Rastrangdi, told Didda a characterless lady. And why he called merciless, ruthless? Because she killed her own son to remain a queen, and not only her own son, she killed her 3 grandsons just to be seated on the throne. I mean, it is very hardly accepted from the side of a woman. I mean, men can be seen. I think in the Gupta dynasty, Chandragupta Maurya, what I heard that he had killed 100 brothers, something like this. I think there is a story. So it is accepted in case of men, because women are believed at least they are more strong in terms of the feelings or through the heart. So just imagine that this Didda, she crossed every limit. So this Yaksha dynasty, this is somewhat a famous figure, despite of the fact she did not commit any moral things, but yet she is important one. So this was as far as the Chalukyas of Kalyanis were concerned, the Karkota dynasty, the Utpala dynasty, and the last one is Yaksha dynasty, and the character of this Didda was concerned. In our next lecture, we will discuss something else. Namaskar.